Been blasting away, a bunch of work getting done. The intake is done. I gave that a fresh polish. The elbow is already polished, so it only takes a couple extra minutes to polish the other tubes. So I just added like a 1-inch section on here to give the boot something square to clamp onto, and then I had like an 8-inch piece left over, so the remainder of it just went there to tuck the air filter down into the corner, so that gets some nice air. Oil lines, I need to get the ends cut off and reclocked. That was my bad originally when I got the oil lines. The drain line for the big turbo needs to get extended. We were able to route it through the frame rail there. I'll try to find a grommet and a P-clip or something there, and then it'll just get connected here. That's pretty decent. Hot pipe is in. This is all welded on. Got my logo welded on that pipe, and we're getting close. Gonna put the injectors in, and really the last thing that needs to get done is shove a 4-inch downpipe down into that hole. So that's what we're gonna get going on next. Well, starting off the downpipe with cutting up yet another Evil Fab kit. Nothing against Evil Fab, just the way that everything's situated right now. I need this piece to be a 45, not a 90. So you measure your long edge, you measure your short edge, or radius rather, you mark that in half, connect the dots, and that gives you that. And then just line up this mark plumb, and should get you pretty close to getting that 45. Got the downpipe and exhaust all mocked up, tacked together, ready to get welded out. Took the Evil Fab kit, cut that initial elbow in half, and then was able to piece stuff together from the parts and pieces they used. So this flange for the turbo already came welded on. This tucks down in between the frame rail and the inner fender. Very, very close fit. It does fit through even with the V-band on the end. It does not hit. I'm not sure if it's going to rattle. We'll worry about that once we get the truck running. We may have to tweak some things around. And then side exhaust exit, of course, with the teardrop at the end. V-band connection, and where this ends up on the truck, which you'll see when it goes in, is right at the part of the frame that swoops up. It's right at that point. So if we ever wanted to switch over and run a full exhaust, it'd be easy to shoot this off to the inside of the frame rail, opposed where all this right now is on the outside of the frame rail. So next thing is we're gonna get all this cleaned up, plugged up, and start welding this out. And I think I only got one more pipe after this to weld out, and we'll be done. Once this is all set, we will put a hanger on it just to support this piece. There is quite a bit of pipe there, so that way it doesn't shake around too bad. So we're gonna get this cleaned up and weld it up. We have been cranking on this. We got the downpipe all set up, both the top side, the bottom side, with a V-band clamp in there. We have the daily driver pipe on with the cap down there for now. Got the oil feed lines on, drain lines are on. They don't have any heat wrap on them yet. Zach got the piping all situated over here, all tied in, kind of just tucked up away for now. And we're pretty much at the point where we can do a first fire up with the full compound kit. So we're just going to give it a little once over, and it's probably what we're going to do next. Yeah. Well, yeah, you should be good. All right. All the fuel. been a couple days. We've gone on 2 good beatdown runs with the truck, about 25 miles each or so. So about 50 miles in. Still got the braking oil in. Now that we've gone through, we're going to change the braking oil to swap over to some normal oil. We did one more hot torque on the head. We did a valve lash. I pulled the return lines off of here because they were still leaking. I think there was some paint that got stuck in between the copper washer when the lines got painted, so that's all set. We're waiting on the stuff for the gauges to come in. So while we're waiting on that, I'm finishing up some kind of loose ends. So I'm working on a turbo support for the big turbo. Originally wasn't going to do it. Doesn't really need it, not sure. I have the extra time right now to take care of it, so we're going to do it. So pretty much I'm going to have a piece of 3/8 stainless that will bridge the manifold here, and then this piece, which I have to adjust the dimensions for, will actually be on top with a 90, so that'll get welded there across and then mount to the oil inlet flange. So I just drew up some quick little pieces and 3D printed them just to make sure that everything was going to fit. So the bridge and then the flange here, and then used my CAD dimensions for this brace to double check that. Got to make a change there, like I said, so that'll be good. Other than that, just going to do some other little, tidy up things, oil line, heat shield, stuff like that. And then gauges will come in and we'll start buttoning this thing up. We got 2 weeks till we have a dyno for us, like to get it broken in. And then a month roughly from this point until another dyno competition. Not a big dyno competition like last year, just a smaller local one. So that's what we're shooting for to get done. The parts are in from Send Cut Send. It's all laser cut stainless and CNC bent. So this is the brace for the turbo, a couple pieces, and then this piece and that piece are going to be for the tachometer sensor mount. Figure get all that stuff situated in while we wait for that. So we're going to get this cut open and then replace the temporary one with this stuff and then see how this all fits, and hopefully this will support the turbo. If not, I do have a plan B to go with it. But once the turbo brace is on, we'll pull this pipe off because I need to weld a bung onto it, but that'll also prove whether this brace is working properly or not. So one of the other little details we want to get wrapped up was to put some heat braided, like heat sheathing over the oil lines just to protect them because it's really tight in there with all the exhaust pipe and wastegate stuff like that. So this is the drain line off of the big turbo. You can see we have the little adapter that we did. So that makes it easy. This is accessible way easier than that. So if we ever have to pull the big turbo off, we can just get to that fitting. So that's part of the reason why it's 2 pieces. But I got this expandable heat sheathing and then these adjustable crimp clamps. And these are the part numbers here. So these came from wirecare.com and these came from hoseclamp.com. But search the part number and you'll find them. So these are big enough here where they will fit over the end of the hose fitting, but they are adjustable small enough to where they'll still actually crimp down onto the line itself. The straight ends are definitely way easier to work with than the 45s. Really difficult to get over the 45. If you had a 90, there's no way. So if you're doing something like this, do it before you crimp the fittings on. This was kind of an afterthought. This one I think got cut a little bit too short, which is fine because this will be at the bottom where it's away from all the heat and will make the top side look nice and clean. It's hard to get, without the phrase, but the way these clamps work is that you pinch them right on the end like that, and that tightens them down. But then it has these slots here that you can adjust it within the 4 slots to adjust diameter. So this is big enough to where it'll fit over the hex of the fitting, but when it's adjusted down, it's small enough to where it'll clamp onto the hose. The heat installation is on the oil drain lines and all set. Gotta do a little bit of touch up and routing. I think I need a couple P-clamps. The brace is cut to length. I had it cut long, just one variable I wasn't 100% on, but the angles and everything and the fitment is perfect. So we're gonna weld that up and then I'm gonna get another gusset made underneath that. Zach is finishing up the oil change. Got some Schaefer's oil going in, fresh filter on. Everything looked good in that sense. Just trying to wrap up some little details. Gauges came in on yesterday, 2 days ago, something like that. So that's going to be an entire video by itself, going over the 1-gauge setup, but we're just plugging away the little details. All right, back on working on the truck. He's stuck on a marketplace, but trying to get some work done.
Buy more Dodges.
Yeah, he did get the radiator swapped out. I got the brace welded on with just one weld. Holding off on the gussets for now. I got a third gusset coming in for there. Gonna put a little bit of tweak on it. Got the bung just tacked in place right now, and that is so that we are able to reference boost pressure of the big turbo and use that to kind of calculate what the small turbo is doing and dictate drive pressure and all that. That'll be something that gets set up to the data log. The other day, finish up with the oil lines. I think I touched base on that. We're just trying to wrap up little miscellaneous details. We got a list started of stuff that we need to do all within the next week, because a week from today plus a day is going to be when we have a dyno session to be able to kind of do some tuning on this. So we're just going to continue plugging away, doing what we can, getting things situated. One of the common issues that has come up is that if you put a fluid dampener on one of these early 12Ls, the fan comes in contact with the dampener. So you got two options. You can space out the nut, which is kind of sketchy because there's not a great amount of thread engagement there to begin with. Or plan B, what I came up with is I milled some off of the face of where the fan sits. So I took off of each pad to recess the fan. That brings the fan closer to the clutch, which ultimately brings the fan closer to the radiator, away from the balancer. And you do lose, obviously, thread engagement here, but if something was to happen and you lost these bolts, the fan is captured between the clutch and the pulley. It's not going to come apart catastrophically like it would if this nut just loosened up completely. So I just took these down on the Bridgeport, and then all I need to do is just finish up the corners here, because it's kind of like a hub-centric. You can see the old stuff of where the idea of the fan sits. So I just got to knock down those couple high spots, and this will go on and be ready for testing. With those edges filed down, the fan fit nice over the hub. I did end up shortening the original bolts by about 2 threads, and we'll just use those with a little bit of blue Loctite for good measure, and we'll get these on and test fit the fan.